This episode is brought to you by Merge Marketing for all of your needs on print, design, web page design, and security. Go to mergemarketinginc.com. Welcome back to Submerge Life podcast. Go to submergelife.com. There's some merch up there. The merch that you purchase, the proceeds will go to different organizations and helping them submerge into life and to invest into their communities and whatever great things that they are doing. This week, I have a very special guest like I do every single week. However, this one is different because this person was the original person that I started a podcast with, and we got to 2 episodes.
Video podcast.
A video cast. So we were doing video casting before anybody else.
Way before everybody else.
So help me welcome Adam. Adam.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I'll probably insert a video, an old video of us right here. Okay, we can do that too.
I'll be like, go watch Submerge, brother. Taking off my glasses so I don't look like you. You do not look like me.
Hi. Welcome.
You gotta redo that. Redo
All right.
it.
Hi, how you doing? My name's Tony. What up, sucker? This is Tone, and this is
Adam. Yeah, right there. That's the guy. Oh, hey.
How you doing?
How's it going?
I'm Tone.
I'm Adam.
Hi, my name is Tone.
That's too serious.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. Oh, them.
Them.
Oh,
Yes.
Sorry.
Yep.
Maybe not. Anyhow, yeah, so Adam, man, we were doing this thing way before anybody else when we were like 5 years old.
Yeah. 5 years old, about 25 pounds lighter, a little bit more hair.
Imagine if we would have kept it. And then I just sent you a text message the other day showing you Basketpong.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was inside our original video that we did where I asked you to combine 2 sports and you said Basketpong. And look it, 20 years later, somebody's selling it on Amazon.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that in the moment we came up with the dumbest possible combination of sports. And then 25 years later, bam, here it is. Someone's actually making money off of it. That's how far we've come as a society.
That is how far we've come. We had a good time. And now we have another podcast that we're trying. And we've recorded a number of episodes with. And this one we're actually releasing, which is called Submerge Life Presents Recreation. So go check that out. Go to submergelife.com. Find that little link. It goes into that podcast. But
Like and subscribe. Oh, no, wait, we don't do that here.
everything. Yes.
Oh,
subscribe,
we do that.
Follow, send money.
Send money. Yeah.
I don't have Patreon yet, but if I did, just,
We really need money.
yeah. Have you seen my shoes lately? I bought them in 1980. Anyhow, so let's just get into the episode. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about something that you've gone through in your life, specifically anxiety. So I just want to put that out there right now. And hopefully you guys will listen and engage with us on this topic because it's a huge topic over the last couple of years. I feel like it's been a huge topic because more and more people have been talking about it. So before we get into that, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. First question is, how are you submerging into your life? And then what's the journey that brought you here? So let's start with, how are you submerging into life, man?
Yeah. I feel like I'm drowning. That's how much I'm submerged. I'm literally drowning in life.
When you submerge into life, you're supposed to have your mouth closed and swim in it, not have your mouth open.
Yeah. So. I don't know. I mean, I do quite a bit. So I don't know really how to answer that question. I do get a kick out of people when they tell me how busy they are, though. And, and then they go over their busyness and they're like, I remember probably 10 years ago talking to people who, they're going to school and they're working, and I tell them, they'll tell me like, oh, I'm so busy. And sorry, man. Sorry, Adam. You know, I've just been so busy lately. I'm like, oh, what are you up to? Well, I'm going to school and I'm working and it's just so much. And they'll be like, well, what are you up to? And I'm like, oh, man, well, you know, I'm coaching high school basketball and I'm still doing ministry and I play at in the worship band at my church and I work full time and I'm running 6 companies and I'm also going to school at night and I'm a father. And I'm like, that's how I'm submerging into life, Tone.
Yeah, I actually use you and Vanessa as an example to some people when they talk to me about their busyness. Like, I'm like, really? You have no idea what busy is because it can be done.
Yeah.
Like all the things that is asked of you can be done because you're only doing, you know, school and work. Like, I'm sure school is a lot. I don't want to belittle that, but
it is a lot.
When you've been doing this a while, you know what's gonna come and how busy that person is going to be, especially with the family.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I use that as an example. And I don't know how you guys do it, honestly, with the businesses, the kids, the sports, the church.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you guys all fit it in.
It's a lot. And don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying it's the right way to do things. 'Cause there are certainly times where, you know, I envy those who just go to work and go home. And I'm like, God, I wish I could have that. And there are times when I do, but inevitably, like, stuff just fills back up, you know. And my life is a very delicate balance of schedule. And you know, any one little last minute thing or you know, sorry man, I'm running 20 minutes late. That could throw off like it's like a butterfly effect, you know, butterfly effect. It throws off a whole plethora of things.
Way to put some shade on me there, buddy.
Yeah.
Because I was 20 minutes late today.
Oh yeah, well that's fine.
No, that's awesome. And then when you get into the non-busyness, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything. Why? You look at those that are doing things and then you envy those and like, oh man, I got to go out and do more, right? Do you find yourself in that?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of. I really don't think about like what other people are doing. I just feel like I need to be productive. You know, like there have been times, especially over the last year, where I do find more time for myself, and I am doing just a couple things. You know, and I just feel like God, I got to be more productive. I feel like I got to be contributing to society somehow, and so yeah. But, you know, I really am. About two years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I have been on a quest to really figure out what I want to spend my life doing. You know, I'm at that point now where, you know, I'm evaluating like the first half of my life and I'm looking forward to the second half of my life. And I'm asking those tough questions of what do I want to spend the rest of my life doing? Like what cause or what work is worth the rest of my life, you know? So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out at this point. You know, I've definitely determined it's not, you know, making money or anything like that. I'm not sure that's the worthwhile cause, but yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Cool. Well, let's touch on a couple of things because there are a couple of things that I do want to talk about before we get into the anxiety. Number one is going to be the church.
Okay.
You've started a church recently. How did that come about?
Yeah.
Well, it's so weird that I asked that. Like, how does that come about? I know the answer. I was there. But yeah, so how did that come about?
Yeah, I just want to clarify though. Like, I didn't start a church. And I'm still not sure like if this is the right response or not, but it's the truth. And yeah, I didn't start it. I didn't start the church. The church started me, Tony. No, yeah, I mean it really was just a group of people that started to come together during COVID. And it really wasn't like a response to COVID. I think it was more so people were just missing, I think, genuine community. And I think that they were, which is that's like a Christian thing to say, huh? Like nobody in the rest of the world uses words like community. Like we were missing community. That's like a very church thing. But I think what they were missing was just like connecting with other human beings and feeling like they were a part of something, like they belonged somewhere. And then you layer on top of that, that they were also, I think, just hungry to learn more about God, and were questioning things that were happening in the world, and what role does God play in all this. And so people had approached me about leading them through a Bible study. And ironically, I had been talking to God, I guess, in my own personal time. And, people had been telling me, like, as I'm searching for this new cause to devote my life to, people were like, Adam, you should think about ministry again. And I'm like, nah, I think that ship has sailed for me. Just there's too many things that I've done. And I just felt like my path was on, different. And I went against the advice I gave everybody about making deals with God, and I made a deal with God, and I said, God, if you really want me to do work in ministry or do something like this, then I need you to bring the people. And about a week later is when this small group of people were like, hey, Adam, we'd love to start a Bible study, and we want to know if you'd do it. And I was like, no way. No way. I don't want to do it.
Here you go.
And then
Surprise.
I remember I was like, oh, shoot, I made this deal. I forgot, And so I said, yeah. And that's really how it started. And one thing led to another. And before I knew it, there's a pretty good group of people that were coming around. And I told them from day one, this is your Bible study. This is your church group. It's not mine. This didn't start because I had an ambition to become a pastor or start a church. The last thing Fresno needs is another church. But I think what Fresno does really need is a place where people genuinely belong, and where it feels like it's a real family, and where people genuinely love each other and care for one another. I think we do such a great job of playing a role, like a character in a play. But we don't necessarily do a good job of being sincere brothers and sisters. And that's what makes this little group so unique is everyone that comes says, it feels like I'm a part of a family. And that's exactly what this group wanted. That's the exact reason why it started. So I didn't start it. There's no way that I could ever do anything like that. I'm so messed up as a person, and I definitely don't have the leadership or anything like that. This is Jesus's church, and this church belongs to the people that go there. And I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, and so this is so now it's in a building, which it started on Zoom.
It started in Zoom,
like everybody else was during COVID. And now there's actually a building, and we do have some praise and worship, some speaking. But one of the things that's a little bit different than most churches is that there's that time for interaction and discussion and asking questions. So it's like this pseudo Bible study, life group, church, all put together in one. Yeah,
it's very different. And it started that way. And that's, we wanted to be true and genuine. Authenticity is one of our core values in our group. And we wanted to be true and authentic to who we were, even as our group got larger. So it doesn't feel like church, I guess, to most people, because we do coloring. We do embrace the arts, and so there are times of reflection where we will draw and express our faith and our thoughts and our emotions through art. We do have 3-minute devotionals where people from the group will exhort the overall body. And it's another churchy reference right there, Christian reference, like the body.
Everybody listening, they're like, I don't even know what this language is.
Yeah, only Christians, know what the body is, and everyone else is like, what kind of a sexual church is this?
Is this OnlyFans?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wait, I'm gonna get demonetized on that one.
I am interested in this body church, But we do. I mean, we have that, and we have discussion during our service as well. The speakers at this church are very, they're okay with it, So we have table talk, we have 5-minute table talk, we have 60-second reflections, and it's different, it's different. If I would say if you're interested, in a different, authentic way to experience, congregational faith, then yeah, you might like it.
And it's still growing. It's still changing. I mean, I do have my flag routine that I'm almost done. It's almost complete, and then I'm going to present that to you and Vanessa and to the board and show them.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Shout out flag dancers.
I'm kidding, people. I'm kidding. For some that know me, they're like, "Oh, you used to do theater. Of course, you would be a flag person and throw out twirls and what." I'm like, no,
We're not opposed to that.
All right. So the other thing that I do want to touch on before we jump onto your journey is, man, you're a dad. I know you've been a dad for a while, but you've been coaching your son in basketball and now your girls and doing cheerleading. What is that like for you?
The
Just
dad
being so
part or the
involved.
cheerleading part?
The dad part.
Yeah, the dad part. The dad part's cool. I don't really have a choice, right? I have to be a dad because I got kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I grew up as I was the only boy in my family, and I never really had like a playmate, right? I didn't have like a brother or anything like that. So having a son is like having the little brother, that I never had. And I remember that's one of the things I was looking forward to when I knew that I was going to have a son, was just having this little guy that, I finally had a playmate. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to do all the things I always wanted to do with a brother with my son. and then he was born, and I quickly realized I can't do anything with him for at least like 10 years, at least nothing that I wanted to do, cause I might hurt him or break him or something. And it's been, it's awesome. Being a father to a son and to twin girls is it's pretty amazing. It's life-changing to say the least.
I remember you saying a comment at the last routine where you're like, you're watching the kids and you're all proud and, like a tear comes down your eye. I'm like, what, you softy. Like, whatever, just cheerleading. Like, I just want to see the kids perform, your girls perform. And like, I'm going to go back to my video game on my phone. Like, that's all I'm there for.
Yeah.
Support.
I think it's a combination of being a dad and turning 40. It like makes you soft. You're not tough anymore. You get softer as you get older. And and then, having girls, that's, that really changes your life. And you just kind of see the world differently, so yeah.
Nice. All right, man. So now let's just jump into your story, man. How did you get here? And I already told you earlier that I want to specifically talk about anxiety because that seems to be one of those hot topics over the past couple of years, especially with COVID and being so isolated from people and having so much fear. So what's your story, man? You start wherever you want, and then I'll ask you some questions as we go.
My story. So what are you asking? Like my story as it relates to
your story as it relates to the anxiety. Like, where did it? What did it look like? When did it start?
I don't know, to be honest with you. That's something I've thought about a lot in my past. Like, where did this come from? What was the catalyst for experiencing this? Because I never felt anxious as a little boy, like my earliest memories are like maybe 4 years old. So like from 4 to, 12, 13 years old, I never felt anxious about anything. And it could be because I was just so small, so for me, I think I first started experiencing this when I was 13 years old. And I remember being in middle school and just feeling kind of sick throughout the day, I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't really a sickly kid. So, I didn't, it sounds really dumb, but I didn't know what being sick felt like. Like, I don't know what that feels like. I just knew my body felt weird and I just didn't feel right. And so I would go home. I think it was probably 8th grade. I'd started to go home a lot from school. And then I think it was my mom who first like put this idea out there that, you could be feeling anxious. You could have anxiety. And the more that we would talk about it and the more I would just kind of observe what I was feeling and thinking at the time, in those moments, it became more evident that, this probably is anxiety. Mm-hmm. And Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if I lay on the couch somewhere, some psychologist is going to tell me maybe it was losing my dad or all the change in my life that occurred, very quickly at a young age. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to say? And maybe it's true. I have no idea. I just know it showed up one day.
Yeah. So in grade school, was it just sort of like a stomach sickness that you felt? Like, what did it look like? Because is it different than when you were in college or when you were an adult, or did it look the same throughout?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, anxiety, I guess, manifests differently for people. Everyone has their own trigger. And for me, like, yeah, I just felt sick. I would just start to feel what I thought was like sick from my stomach. And again, I didn't know what that felt like because I think I've thrown up like 2 times in my whole life. I didn't know what that felt like. And I was like, well, I feel like a lump in my throat, and my heart's racing a little bit, and I think I have to throw up, but I'm not sure. And I think not knowing and having this this imagination of like, oh my gosh, what if I get sick at school? What if I get sick in the lunch line or during class? Like, what am I going to do? I think just not knowing what it was and not knowing how to deal with it is what would make me more anxious. So it's kind of like you feel a little bit, you don't know what it is. Not knowing makes you more anxious, which makes you manifest symptoms even more, which makes you feel more anxious. And it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
It's like I feel a little bit sick now. I don't know what it is. Not knowing what it is makes me feel more sick. The more sick I feel, the more questions I have, the less answers, which makes me feel more sick, and on and on and on.
So how often did this happen when you were in grade school?
Yeah, when it first started, it would be like, I wouldn't say every day, but definitely every week. And it might be 2 to 3 days a week, and it could be for like 4 to maybe 6 weeks at a time. And then I'd have like a whole week of I'm good, nothing, no episodes, and then I might go a month, and then bam, another 4-week stint of like maybe 2 to 3 days a week feeling something. And yeah, so like early on when I didn't really know what it was, I didn't really know how to cope with it. It was like a lot, like it felt like a lot. It was like months, several times a year. You go through these little bouts of anxiety. Yeah.
And then I know you guys didn't have a whole lot of money, but did you go to a doctor during that time?
No, not just because we didn't have money, but because also we're like good old fashioned Mexicans. We don't go to the doctor.
You drink 7-Up and Windex?
Yeah, my mom, my mom was awesome. Like she was, she had to play the role of both mom and dad for me. And so I think she recognized this as an opportunity for her to be tough with me, and teach me how to be tough, teach me how to be strong, teach me how to work through adversity and work through challenges. And so we were both kind of figuring it out together. So when I was young, being active was really helpful. It's something I observed. So if I was physically active, then that would help. So if I started to feel a little anxious, as long as I had access to like a basketball hoop and a ball, I was okay. Because I could just work it off. And there were days I'd be playing for hours. Like I'm talking like 6 hours a day. I'd be out playing, and from the moment I got home from school to the moment the sun would set, I was playing. And on a weekend, I could be out all day. And that's kind of how I dealt with it at a very young age. And I think my mom recognized that and would kind of support that.
Mm-hmm. So when you move out of grade school, you're in college, is it still very consistent like that, or did it die down?
Yeah, no, thankfully, so 8th grade year into my freshman year at high school, it was pretty bad. I lost a bunch of weight. I think I started high school weighing in like at 98 pounds or something like that. And it was pretty bad. And the first semester of high school, I remember, was really, really rough. Probably the worst time. But then something kind of clicked for me in that second semester as a freshman. And I started to develop like a more confidence in what it was and how to deal with it. And I went on a good run, and I think it went like a whole year before I felt anxious, maybe even 2 years. And I remember not feeling anxious again until I was a senior in high school. So great sophomore year, great junior year. Senior year had a little bit, but I had coping mechanisms at that point. So it might have lasted 3-4 months out of the year, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And the older I got, the more experience I got with it, the shorter the episodes and the longer in between each episode. So where I went from, 3-4 times a year lasting 4 to 6 weeks at a time to maybe twice a year for 2 weeks. And then once a year for 1 week. And then every other year for a couple days. And before you knew it, it was like 5 years for a half a day. And then, every 5 years for like a couple of hours. Right. And it just gets better and better. It got easier, I should say, easier and easier the older I got.
Okay. And then, but when we met, you were going through it. Was it pretty heavy around that time that we met? Because that's kind of like one of the things that kind of brought this friendship together, not just the church, but also the anxiety in a way. Because you would text me at like 10 o'clock at night, hey, you want to go play basketball? Like, I don't want to play basketball. No, I want to play sports. I hate sports.
Yeah, I remember that. Like reaching out to you like at 8 o'clock and you're like, hey, you want to go hoop? And I didn't know you were the athlete that you are. But you said yeah, and I remember that. That was cool. Yeah, I mean, so that was definitely a season for me, where we're going through it. And I don't remember it being as intense as when I was really young. But yeah, definitely.
Because you lost a lot of weight during that time too. Because I remember in one of our videos, like we even talked about the ring, like it didn't fit.
Oh yeah,
your wedding ring, it didn't fit. But that's because you didn't
lost some weight.
You lost a lot of weight.
I could use a little anxiety right now, for like about 15 pounds. That'd be great. I mean, I'm kidding, of course. I don't want anxiety, but
so
I do.
What are some of the coping mechanisms that you used that you used back in the day? Because basketball was one of them.
Yeah, being active was one when I was very little. Another one that I don't remember who if it was my mom or myself who thought of this, but I used to write a lot when I was young too. And I have a notebook still to this day that I've kept that has letters in it from the time that I was 13. You're talking about 27 years ago. And I have letters that I wrote to my dad. I have letters that I wrote to God. I have prayers that I've written in there. And I've just saved this little notebook throughout the years. And now I add to it. I still add to it, as a matter of fact, from time to time. But writing was a coping mechanism for me. I would write out prayers and just write out different letters. When I was in high school, actually my senior year that I'm talking about, my mom went to a swap meet and bought me a little cheap guitar. And she came home one day. She's like, I'm going to teach you how to play guitar. And I was like, but you don't know how to play the guitar, And so that was something that we did together. And I remember sitting out on our front porch in the summertime, and it was usually right after dinner. And she and I would sit out there, and she would teach me old songs, old church songs, and she would teach me how to play them, and we'd play them in different keys, and she would sing, and that was soothing to my soul, And from then on, playing guitar and singing has always been a major. It's always played a major role, or it has played a major role in my life, and now that's my go-to. Like when I start to feel anxious or worried or whatever it is I'm feeling, I go straight to my guitar and I begin to sing and just worship, and that always has a way of getting me through those moments.
Yeah, and this would pop up at any moment, right? The anxiety, the feelings. It could be in the morning, could be in there. Because I remember a couple of times, like you'd text me, "Hey, I'm leaving work" or whatever, because it would just pop up. Or you'd have to cancel. You know, we would meet up for lunch or whatever. You have to cancel and be like, "Nah, I got to go home. Like I can't."
Yeah. It's so for me, the triggers were always physical. You know, like it was always a physical feeling, like a physical feeling of being sick is what would trigger it. And so yeah, it could be anything. It could be something I ate. Could have been, I don't know, whatever. But it was always physical. So as soon as I started to feel a certain type of way, it would start to cause my mind to race and become anxious, and then it was a snowball. Yeah. So it could be anytime.
And then traveling seemed like that was
traveling was
the family.
Traveling was a major trigger. Just because, like one of my biggest fears was like, what if I have an anxious episode while I'm away from home, while I'm away from all of my coping stuff, right? All of my coping mechanisms, like my guitar's at home, my notebook's at home. It's private, like I'll be, what am I going to do? And so traveling was a big one for me, man. That was really hard.
I remember, and you used to travel quite a bit for work at that time.
Yeah, I mean,
I never said anything, but it was always worrisome. Like, oh man, I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's,
I wasn't doing a whole lot of like out of town traveling at the time, but I was definitely doing a lot of in town traveling or in state traveling, but not a whole lot of overnight stuff. By the time I started doing overnight stuff, I was a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And then I had like this bright idea, like, dude, you should just take your guitar with you. And I was like, oh yeah.
And what does it look like today?
Today it's good, honestly. I mean, if I feel a moment of anxiety, I mean, it could last maybe 30 minutes, if that. Could be as short as like 5 minutes. It just kind of depends, but very, very little. And it's been quite a while since I've experienced something that bad. Which I'm really grateful for, by the way. But yeah, it's I would say, doing very good right now.
Mm-hmm. So I had a friend that had anxiety too, and for her, she couldn't leave her room. Yeah. Is that how bad it got in your life, or was it home that brought safety, or a basketball court?
Yeah. I think for me, it was being around things that were familiar. Like it's not like I couldn't leave my room, but I couldn't leave my familiar area. Like I remember even buying a house in the neighborhood where I grew up in because it was familiar, right? Like the first house I bought was in the neighborhood that I grew up, and I did that because I knew where all the hoops were. I knew who all my neighbors were. I knew the places where I could walk at night if I wanted to walk. Like I just, it was comfortable. And so that's what it was for me. Like I never, I never felt like I couldn't leave my house.
That's the house that I met, that
you met me
in.
Yeah.
And then the other, was it your mom's house or sister's house, were right around the corner?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just know in my life, like I haven't had a ton of anxiety, but I do get it every now and then where I want to throw up.
Yeah.
It will last for about, I don't know. I mean, I'll gag and get over the sink and do all that. And then I just, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And I just got to remind myself like, hey, today's going to be good. Usually it's in the morning, right before I go to work. In the car, people were looking over. What are you doing? Why do you have a plastic? No. But, and then it happens. Remind myself, hey, there's nothing that I can't get over today, that God can't bring me over.
Yeah.
And you can do it. So go do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will happen at work, and sometimes it will be on the way home from work, or sometimes it will be at night and I'm watching a movie. I don't know. It just pops up. It's so weird and random.
What you just said right now is so big, and I forgot to mention that. Like that was also a really big thing for me was being able to talk myself down from where I was, because when you're in those moments, like your mind races and you just start thinking very irrational thoughts. And I had to get into the practice of like talking myself down, and this is where like I think for people who are Christian, for people who follow the way of Jesus and believe in the Bible, believe in his words, this is I think where the advantage we have, because there's so many narratives in the world that are not true. And we have a tendency to believe them, like we believe all these untrue narratives about our lives. And so in these moments, if you can grab a hold of truth and make that your narrative, that's like huge. It's huge in helping you get through and cope. And so what you said is exactly what I used to do too, and I still do. I kind of take a pause, and I really kind of like evaluate myself. Like, okay, what exactly are you feeling? Like, be very specific. What is it that you're feeling? And where's that feeling coming from? And then what is the truth about this situation, right? And like you said, there's nothing, like you can get through whatever it is that you're facing today, right? Whatever it is that you're facing is not going to change who you are. It's not going to take your life. It's not going to change God's love for you. It's not greater than God's peace. There's no amount of anxiety that you can feel that is greater than the peace of God. Like nothing, right? There's nothing you can do that outweighs the love of God for you, right? There's nothing there's no sin you could commit or no crime you could commit or thing you can say that is more powerful than the grace of God on your life, right? Like these are like true things. And then when you begin to recite these truths in your mind, right? And then these truths about your body and like that helps the anxiety, it helps you really kind of come down and calm down. And that was huge. Like that was a major role. That played a major role in my life for sure.
Yeah, mine really didn't show up until COVID, and I was just thinking about it right now. Like, well, it was COVID that really, because I got so used to being at home, and I didn't want to leave home. And then I was living up near Prather, which is a good 30-minute drive. That's when it started showing, because I just got so used to being home, and any time that I would have to come down, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go down. I don't want to go meet with people. I don't want to be around people. So maybe it's connected to that feeling and that fear of, I didn't really feel like I had fear though of COVID. It was like, or you know what? Yeah, I did. Cause it was, what type of COVID am I going to get? Am I going to get
the dying kind,
or am I going to get, I'm going to have a cold, a sniffle for a few days.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but see that's my point. Like that's what I'm saying about the narratives that are out there that are not true, and can really mess with you. And like, at least it's not true for people that, we believe in an afterlife, and we believe that, that we're going to be in the presence of God forever when we die. And, what's better than that? You know what I mean? And yeah, it's going to be, we don't know what the transition from this life to the next one is like. We don't know what the next life is going to feel like experientially, but we believe it's there. And so it's like Paul said, right? To live is Christ and to die is gain. Like these are truths, but like when we grab a hold of the wrong narrative, it just leads to anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of COVID am I going to get? What if I die? What if I get really sick? What if I get put on a ventilator? Well, that's the adventure God chose for you, Yeah. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm talking about.
And then it just continued to go, and then it went into like work stuff and just meeting and being around people stuff. And it took me a while, I think, to recognize it and then talk myself down from it to where it's like, okay, cool, like whatever, I can go and hang out with people. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to be like I got so used to being in my room or in the house, and it was a long road.
Yeah.
COVID sucked. and I still get those feelings now, and I don't live up there anymore, and now live here in town, but I will still get those from time to time, for unexplained reasons.
Right.
Like there's nothing that's gonna happen in the day. Like things are great, why do I have this feeling?
Yeah.
Driving to work, like nothing. There are no fires right now. There's no issues, or this feeling going to the store, or like, yeah, it's so weird. And then I tried to fight it too, because I felt like if I did give in, it was going to get worse.
It does.
If I continued to just want to stay home and then stayed home and never challenged myself to get past some of that, it was just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, that's such a good point too. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people make is they want to, they want to like, what's the right word? Like they accommodate it, you know, and we create like easier paths for ourselves because we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to face it head on. Or feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And so we make it easy for ourselves. That's like a survival instinct, you know, let's make it easier. But the irony is like the weaker we get, you know, the softer we get. And actually the path forward is to desensitize ourselves to it. And the only way to desensitize is to get exposed. You know, let's expose ourselves to it little by little. Let's go a little bit farther and a little bit farther, and let's push ourselves a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's actually how we get past it. You know, it's not by retreating and hiding and removing all the triggers. Like that's actually not the way to do it. At least in my experience. I'm not a, you know, mental health professional, but that's my experience. And my mom played a good role. She played a major role in that for me. She was not going to let me off the hook, you know, and she was going to push me and you know, make me get better. And that's what happened.
And sometimes it's baby steps. I know you can't go from 0 to 1,000 for every situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to be from 0 to 0.1.
Yeah, exactly.
And then 0.2.
Yep.
At least that's what I saw in my life. And sometimes I just had to push myself and just go for the 1,000, whether I achieved it or not. It was just going for it. So, man, that was a good convo. I hope that you, the listener, can take something from that.
Are we done? Is that it?
Man, that's like 45 minutes already.
Is that enough? Like, I don't know. I feel like we didn't give the people what they want.
Well, there is one more final question. And this question is to you, Adam. And if somebody's listening to this and they're going through some of these similar things, or they're going through it and they're fighting these urges of anxiety and feeling like they're not good enough, or like they can't conquer this world, or they can't do anything, what would you tell that person?
Yeah, it's a good question. Unfortunately, I think that's all the time we have for today, Tony. So we won't be able to give you the answer to that question. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think when you told me you were going to ask that question, I thought about like, well, if I could go back to little 13-year-old Adam, you know, so handsome and vibrant and full of life, what would I tell him? And I think what I would tell him is to make sure that he found a good friend, you know, like a true friend, because that's really what helped me. Like, you know, finding coping mechanisms is good, and you know, like learning that basketball helped. You know, all that stuff was good, and I think you naturally find a way to you know, deal with it. But one of the keys for me was just having like true good friends in my life. You know, you were one, my mom was one. There's been a couple of other guys at different stages of my life where, like when you need them, you call them and they're there. You know, there's no questions asked. I remember calling you one time saying, "Hey, Tone," I don't even think I said anything. I just said, "Hey, what are you doing?" You're like, "Nothing." And I said, "You want to go play hoops?" And you're like, "Yep, I'll be there." And like, I didn't even tell you what was going on. I'm sure you probably knew. And it was like, I'm dropping everything, I'm going, you know? Yeah. And that's the kind of friend that young Adam needs. And if there are people that are struggling with anxiety, that don't have a friend like that. That's what they need, you know?
Yeah.
I don't honestly know how people do it without Jesus. I mean, he is the one true friend. Even though you can't see him, you can't touch him, you can't hear his voice audibly, he is the one friend that will never leave us. He's the one friend that is always there, answering the call. He's the one friend that will never judge you, never looks down on you, never looks at you differently. That's a fear we have when we're anxious. We feel weak, we feel embarrassed, we feel ashamed. And Jesus never looks at you that way. He never sees shame or embarrassment, or, you know, he doesn't see those things. And so I don't know how they do it, you know. I think that you got to have a friend in your life who can talk to you, and who you can talk to, and who will listen, and who will just be there with you. And yeah, that's the one thing I would say. You know, you got to find a friend. Yeah.
And the person listening, I mean, you may be that friend to somebody. And let me tell you, I when I first met you, I didn't know nothing. Like, I was just a wee little child. I didn't know nothing. All I knew how to do was go to a basketball court and kind of sort of play basketball. That was it. I couldn't give you no advice, but I just said, yeah. I mean, most of the time, yeah, I am busy, but I'm not gonna tell people that.
Yeah.
Like, you're busy? No. What do you need?
I think I remember the ball rolling out of bounds, and then you spraining your ankle walking to go pick up the ball.
Yeah. You just got to say yes and just go. And us as guys, we want to solve problems, and we can't always be the one that's wanting there to solve the problem. Like, just listen. That's it. Just be there. Just play basketball. And then after an hour of freezing, you know, it's only going to last an hour of how long of your life?
Yeah.
It's good. Just go. Just do it. Eat food. Don't even talk about the thing, because we didn't really even talk about it.
No, we didn't talk about the thing.
Never talked about it. We
just shot around and talked about, like, Taco Bell or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And I will see you on the next podcast.